Welcome back. A number of things for us to discuss with this morning's roundtable. Let's bring in Nancy Derringer, the columnist from Deadline Detroit, former executive director of the Michigan Republican Party, Jason Rowe, now political strategist for Rowe Strategic. Nolan Finley is the editorial chief of the Detroit News, and Stephen Henderson, of course, is the host of Detroit Today on WDET. I'm assuming I don't have anyone here who's willing to defend Mike Duggan not wanting to debate. I know we're all debate fans, but Stephen, I think when you and I have talked about this a lot, along with Nolan on this program, this is partly the media's fault, isn't it? We have not gotten our act together toward creating a debate commission so that there's a debate whether somebody wants to show up or not, right?
Yes, and it's our own selfishness that's fueling that. This idea that it's worth competing against other media outlets to be the one who gets the debate is the thing that has stopped us from creating this commission. And so politicians have, for many years, just played us off each other, right? Said, I'd rather go here. I can get the better deal with this station, and that's where I want to do it. We need to take that process away from the control of politicians and put it in the hands of, a neutral kind of organization that is just going to host debates and invite the candidates and expect that they come.
Nolan, as somebody, though, as a candidate who got over 70% in a primary, still the only guy I know who won such a big election as a write-in candidate. I mean, he's a formidable campaigner. Mm-hmm. Would that change? Would he show up anyway if we just held a debate?
Well, he should. I mean, that should be the expectation. And a politician running for office should be willing to stand up, defend their ideas, defend their record. Duggan is spouting this line that he's protecting the people of Detroit from divisive politics. Now, that's just nonsense. He debated Coleman Young. He debated Benny Napoleon. Both were divisive races. And, Anthony Adams is, based on his resume, based on the ideas he's bringing to the table, is not a fringe candidate. He's a credible candidate, and voters should be able to compare and contrast.
Jason, though, as you're a political strategist, would you tell the mayor to debate?
Well, I certainly recognize the advantage that he has. I mean, why give oxygen to your opponent? And so I think it's a common political strategy to not elevate the person you're running against, particularly if they don't have the resources to compete with your resource advantage. So I certainly recognize that value. Having said that, I've always felt with my clients, incumbents and challengers, you participate in these because there's an expectation, but I also think it's the one, if few, opportunities that people get to take your measure versus your opponents. And Duggan, is well known, and he shouldn't be afraid to run on his record. And I'm kind of surprised that he would visit this criticism on himself unnecessarily. Yeah,
Nancy, as I said at the top of the program, my cynical worry here, though, is that this has become the incumbent's playbook. This is just how it is. Why give your opponent any air at all?
Did you, I'm sure everybody here has seen the video of the 1973 Belmont Stakes that was won by Secretariat by about a million lengths. I mean, he was out so far ahead that the other horses were just, they were still back in the, the back stretch.
Not in the screen,
and at one point, you can see Ron Turcotte, riding along, and he looks over his shoulder, and it's like, what are you looking for? I mean, you have to know how far out ahead you are. Do you just want to glory in the margin that you're ahead of? And so I guess I kind of feel like Duggan is Secretariat at this point. I mean, he doesn't have to do anything he doesn't want to do. You wish he would do the right thing, and I think the right thing would be to meet Anthony Adams. I think this hate and divisiveness thing is a pretty thin excuse, but you can't. It's his call. I agree with Stephen. That there needed to be a neutral party commission, and get it done through that.
We got to do that. Let's move on to these redistricting maps. We're in the middle of these meetings that are going on across the state, as now everybody's getting their first view and a chance to weigh in on what we're seeing here. Stephen, I think going in, we knew there was no way that everybody was going to be happy with what they put forth, especially for a city of Detroit that keeps losing population. But what's your take so far on what you've seen?
So first of all, let's revel a bit in the idea that there is a process here, and there's a public process. We're seeing the draft maps for the first time ever. in this process because we have this independent commission that shares the maps. And this is what democracy looks like, right? They put out the drafts and we get to say, well, we like this, well, we don't like that. We want you to change these things. Here are some factors that maybe you didn't take into account. So it's going the way it's supposed to go. Now, the maps that some Detroiters are upset about, I think, are really complicated. And the things that they're upset about are very complicated. But I just want to throw one thing out there that I think has not been part of the conversation. Is it that these maps are unlikely to produce African-American representatives, which is what the allegation is? Or is it that because of the change in demographics, these maps might more likely produce African-American representatives who are not from Detroit? If you throw Detroiters into districts where now we have more African-Americans living in the suburbs than we do in the city for the first time ever, I think one of the objections secretly is that this makes it a little easier for African-Americans outside the city to win in districts where they would represent city residents. We see that in Congress right now with Brenda Lawrence in a district that's drawn very cynically. These are not cynical maps, but they might produce those same things. And I think that's something we ought to be talking about.
Yeah. Nolan, what are your thoughts on what you've seen so far?
Well, the maps they've drawn so far, particularly in the congressional maps, are going to be hard on incumbents. You've got 9 incumbents who are at risk of facing each other. You can say that's a good thing or a bad thing, but one way or the other, I think we're going to lose 3 or 4 congressional incumbents, and that lessens the delegation's clout in Washington. I've long advocated that Detroit should be mostly one district, given its population. At least 1 or 2 of the maps do that. I think it's a positive thing. But these are headed to court, both on the Voting Rights Act and on the constitutionality of removing congressional draws from the legislature.
Jason, we're going to have some incumbents who will need to move, it certainly appears, if they want to stay incumbents. But we are going to lose 1 net seat, and the bet right now seems to be that that's going to be that when the game of musical chairs plays out up the northwest of us, that it's going to be a Republican seat that ends up getting swallowed up. What's your take so far?
I think that is certainly a possibility. Nathan Gonzalez, who's one of the DC-based political prognosticators, actually opined on Twitter a few months ago that the loss of 1 seat could benefit Republicans and that Democrats actually would have fared better under Republican-drawn maps than they are under the redistricting commission's maps. One thing that my biggest takeaway from what we've observed in this process is that communities of interest, and I lived in California 10 years ago during their first citizens redistricting, and had clients in Arizona that were subject to citizen redistricting there. Communities of interest's original intent was not dividing up political jurisdictions, cities, counties, townships, to accomplish political partisan ends. And that's actually what we're seeing here. We're dividing up cities like Livonia into 4 different districts. The intent was to keep communities of interest together, i.e. keep cities, don't divide these up into multiple pieces. And so when liberals didn't get the outcome that they had hoped 10 years ago, particularly in Arizona, they changed the definition of communities of interest to these ephemeral concepts that we're seeing people litigate now. And when you've got 13 novices doing this very complex process of redrawing the maps with all these new variables that have been introduced, I think it gums up the process. And so while I do think it's a nice parlor exercise to observe the process, we now have invited a lot of special interests into this process. And I went to the hearings in Detroit the other day and got to witness, a lot of people regurgitating union talking points and other political special interest talking points into this process. And I do think that we're probably going to see that gerrymandering wasn't quite as offensive as everyone thought, because we're observing gerrymandering right now just to comply with the Voting Rights Act, majority minority districts, and some of the other legal obligations that the commission has.
Yeah, it didn't take long for all those interests to rush into the process. We've just got a couple minutes left. I wanted to make sure we talk about the vaccine mandate situation. Nancy, we have watched Henry Ford Health System lost about 400 employees. cities, now Beaumont just this past week, about the same over vaccine mandates. Now, that's a small percentage of their overall workforce, but of course, a lot of those, the smaller percentages are getting the headlines all over the country right now. What are your thoughts on it? Because Nolan and Stephen both made the point months ago that vaccine mandates by businesses were the only way to move forward on protecting us from COVID-19. What are your thoughts, Nance?
My thoughts on this are cry me a river and enjoy unemployment, because if there is we know these vaccines are safe. If you do have a legitimate medical exemption, you can get that particularly from a health system. I've run out of patience. There was a hearing yesterday in Lansing. I was reading a Twitter thread about it, and it was just one witness after another bringing up falsehoods, exaggerations, outright lies about vaccines. They are safe. We want this. We need to get back to this. I just returned from a month in France. That's a statement I never thought I would say in my life. But
I like it.
And they have a vaccination rate over there of 86%.
Yeah.
Everyone carries something called a pass sanitaire on their phone. It's a little QR code that you flash, and they check it in restaurants, in museums, in concert venues, anywhere that's kind of a large indoor space. It does contact tracing. It keeps track of all of your testing. It's great. Yeah. And I thought, we have Silicon Valley in this country. Why don't we have something like this? Everybody's walking around with these crummy little CDC cards that don't fit into your wallet and fall apart, and it's booster time. And, people are like, where's my CDC card? I put it somewhere and now I can't find it. It's like, we're doing everything wrong.
I got to jump in. And gang, I have to apologize to the rest of you. Nancy's the only one who gets a word in on the vaccines because I got to get to a commercial break. Back with more on Flashpoint right after this.